The rain drummed against my apartment window as I scrolled through social media. A glass of wine balanced precariously on the arm of my thrift store couch. That's when I saw it. A photo of my entire family gathered in my parents' backyard, smiling under string lights I'd helped my father hang 3 summers ago. My sister Emma stood center frame, her arm around our mother. My brother David held up a beer, grinning. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone was there, everyone except me. My hand trembled as I enlarged the photo. There was the banner, Thompson Family Reunion 2024. I hadn't received an invitation, not a text, not an email, not even a courtesy call. I checked the date stamp, yesterday. While I'd been working a double shift at the hospital, my family had gathered without me, and apparently, nobody had thought to mention it. I called Emma first. She didn't answer. Then David. Voicemail. Finally, I dialed my mother's number, my heart pounding against my ribs. "Oh, Margot," she said when she picked up, her voice carrying that particular tone of inconvenience I'd grown up with. "I was wondering when you'd notice." "Notice what, Mom? That you had a family reunion and didn't invite me?" According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. There was a pause, and I heard the rustle of movement, a door closing. "Hold on." Her voice became clearer, more deliberate. "Your father and I need to talk to you. Can you come over tomorrow?" "Can you just tell me why I wasn't invited?" "Tomorrow, Margot, 2 o'clock. She hung up. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed replaying every family interaction from the past year, searching for the moment I'd become dispensable. I'd always been the responsible one, the daughter who became a nurse, who helped with bills when Dad's business struggled, who organized Mom's medication after her surgery. Emma was the free spirit, the artist who could do no wrong. David was the golden boy, the one with the corner office and the expensive suits. And I was, what? The workhorse? The afterthought? The next day, I drove to my childhood home with my stomach in knots. The house looked exactly as it had in the photos. The decorations were still up, though wilted now. Balloons sagged against the fence. I used my old key to let myself in. They were waiting in the living room. My father sat in his recliner, looking older than I remembered, his face carefully neutral. My mother perched on the edge of the couch, her hands folded in her lap like she was about to deliver a diagnosis. "Sit down, sweetheart," Dad said. I remained standing. "Just tell me what's going on." Mom and Dad exchanged a glance, one of those married couple telepathic communications that excluded everyone else. Finally, Mom spoke. "We didn't invite you for a reason, Margot." The words hung in the air like smoke. I waited for the explanation, the misunderstanding that would make this make sense. "Emma told us what you did," Mom continued, "about her art grant." My blood went cold. "What I did?" "Don't play. Innocent," Dad said, his voice hard. "You sabotaged her application. She told us everything, how you were jealous of her success, how you couldn't stand that she was finally getting recognition." I actually laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "That's insane. I helped Emma with that application. I proofread her entire submission." "That's not what she says." Mom's voice was ice. "She has emails, Margot, screenshots of you sending false information to the grant committee, telling them she'd plagiarized her work." "I never—" I stopped, my mind racing. "Mom, Dad, I would never do that. You know me. I've always supported Emma." "We thought we knew you," Mom said quietly. "But when Emma showed us the evidence, and when David confirmed that you'd been acting strangely jealous at family dinners—" "David confirmed?" The betrayal was a physical pain in my chest. "What is happening right now?" "We think it's best if you take some time away from the family," Dad said. "Until you're ready to apologize and make this right with your sister." I stood there, speechless, as my parents, the people who were supposed to know me better than anyone, looked at me like I was a stranger, a villain in a story they'd already decided was true. "I didn't do anything wrong," I said, my voice breaking. "If you can't see that, then maybe you're right. Maybe I do need time away." I left without looking back, drove home on autopilot, and then sat in my apartment for 3 hours, staring at nothing. The injustice of it burned through me like acid. I'd been tried and convicted without a defense, excommunicated from my own family based on lies. But why? Why would Emma do this? I opened my laptop and started digging. If there were emails, screenshots, evidence, I would find the truth. I logged into my email account and searched every exchange I'd had with Emma about the grant. I'd edited her artist statement, yes. I'd encouraged her to apply, celebrated with her when she'd submitted it. There was nothing incriminating because I'd done nothing wrong. Then I searched for the grant committee's contact information and found something interesting. The grant had been awarded 2 weeks ago. I pulled up the recipient list, and there it was. Emma Thompson, $50,000 for emerging artists. She'd won. So why the lie? Why destroy my relationship with our parents when she'd gotten exactly what she wanted? I dug deeper, scrolling through Emma's social media, her website, her online portfolio. That's when I found it, a post from 3 months ago celebrating her engagement to Marcus Chen, a prominent art dealer I'd introduced her to at a hospital fundraiser last year. My hands froze over the keyboard. Marcus. We'd dated briefly, years ago, before I realized he was more interested in my family connections than in me. I'd introduced him to Emma as a professional contact, nothing more. But apparently, something had developed. I searched for Marcus's profile and found engagement photos. Emma beaming, in a vintage dress, Marcus's arm around her waist. And in the comments, a post from my mother. "So happy for you both! Welcome to the family, Marcus!" The pieces clicked together. Emma had won the grant, gotten engaged to my ex, and was being celebrated by everyone. But it wasn't enough. She needed to ensure she was the undisputed star, which meant removing any competition, removing me. The emails, the screenshots, they had to be fabricated. And David had backed her up, probably fed information by Emma to make her case more convincing. He'd always been easily led, always sided with whoever presented the most confident story. I spent the next week gathering evidence. I contacted the grant committee and obtained official correspondence showing I'd never contacted them. I recovered deleted text messages showing Emma had asked me to help with her application. I found earlier emails where she'd thanked me profusely for my support. I compiled everything into a detailed timeline with screenshots, receipts, and witness statements. But I didn't send it to my parents. Not yet. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I reached out to Marcus's ex-wife, Rachel, whom I'd met once at a gallery opening. Over coffee, she told me what I'd suspected. Marcus had a pattern of using women for their connections, then discarding them when someone more useful came along. She showed me court documents from their divorce, including evidence that he'd forged her signature on financial documents. "He's a charming sociopath," Rachel said, stirring her latte. "And if your sister is marrying him, she either knows exactly what he is, or she's about to find out the hard way." I thanked her and left with copies of the documents. Then I made a decision. If my family wanted to exclude me, they would learn what it meant to lose me completely. But more than that, they would learn the truth about the people they'd chosen over me. 3 weeks later, Emma's engagement party was announced on social media. A garden celebration at my parents' house, exclusive guest list, black tie optional. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I came anyway. I chose a simple black dress and drove to the house as the sun was setting. Cars lined the street, the same relatives who'd attended the reunion, plus Emma's Art World friends and Marcus's colleagues. I parked 2 blocks away and walked, my heels clicking on the pavement, a folder of documents tucked under my arm. I didn't use my key this time. I rang the doorbell like the stranger they'd made me. David answered, his face going pale. "Margot, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to celebrate my sister's engagement," I said calmly. "Are you going to turn me away?" He glanced over his shoulder, then stepped aside. The house was full of people, champagne glasses catching the light, laughter floating through the rooms. I walked through like a ghost, watching heads turn, whispers starting. Emma spotted me from across the living room. She was radiant, in cream silk, Marcus beside her with his hand possessively on her lower back. Her expression shifted from shock to fury in seconds. "What is she doing here?" she hissed, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Mom appeared, her face flushed. "Margot, you need to leave. You weren't invited." "I know," I said. "You didn't invite me for a reason. You told me that, but I'm here for a reason too." Dad pushed through the crowd, his jaw tight. "Don't make a scene." "Oh, I'm not the one who made a scene," I said, my voice carrying now. The room was quieting, people sensing drama. "That honor belongs to Emma." "How dare you?" Emma started, but I held up my hand. "I have some things to share. Documents, actually. Evidence." I opened the folder. "See, I've spent the last month investigating why my own sister would fabricate evidence to turn our parents against me, and I found some interesting things." I pulled out the first set of papers, the official emails from the grant committee, time-stamped and verified. These prove I never contacted the grant committee with false information. In fact, these show that I only ever helped Emma with her application. Mom reached for the papers, her face uncertain now. "But that's not the interesting part," I continued. "The interesting part is why Emma would do this. At first, I thought it was simple jealousy, sibling rivalry. But then I realized Emma won the grant. She got everything she wanted, so why destroy my relationship with you?" I pulled out the next document, screenshots of Emma's texts to me, thanking me for introducing her to Marcus, gushing about how wonderful he was. Because she felt guilty. She was dating my ex, getting engaged to him, and she knew you might not approve if I was around to provide context. "Marcus and I fell in love," Emma said, her voice shaking. "You can't control who—" "I don't care who you date," I interrupted, "but you should care who you're marrying." I placed the final documents on the coffee table. Rachel's divorce papers, bank statements showing Marcus's fraud, a police report from an incident where he'd been caught forging signatures at an auction house. "Marcus Chen is a con artist," I said clearly. "He's defrauded multiple women, including his ex-wife. He's currently under investigation for art forgery. And Emma, that grant money you won? I'd check your bank account because I'm willing to bet he's already got access to it." The room erupted. Emma snatched up the papers, her hands shaking. Marcus's face had gone white, then red. "This is slander," he sputtered. "I'll sue you for—" "For telling the truth?" I met his eyes. "Please do. I have lawyers ready." Emma was reading the documents now, her expression crumbling. No, this isn't. Marcus, tell them this isn't true." But Marcus was already moving toward the door, pushing through the stunned guests. David grabbed his arm. "You're not going anywhere until we call the police." What happened next was chaos. Marcus tried to run, actually bolting for the back door, but my Uncle Frank, former college linebacker, tackled him in the hallway. Someone called 911. Emma collapsed onto the couch, sobbing, clutching the divorce papers. Mom stood frozen, the grant committee emails in her hands. Dad walked over to me, his face ashen. "Margot, Don't, I said quietly. Not yet. The police arrived. Marcus was arrested on outstanding warrants I'd discovered through Rachel's lawyer. Emma sat crying while Mom tried to comfort her, though my mother looked like she might be sick. The guests dispersed quickly, the engagement party dissolving into a crime scene. I stood in the corner of the living room, watching it all unfold, feeling nothing but a cold, distant satisfaction. Finally, when the police had taken Marcus away and most of the guests had left, my family turned to me. "You knew," Emma said, her mascara streaked down her face. "You knew what he was, and you let me get engaged to him." "I found out 3 weeks ago," I said. "I tried to call you. You blocked my number. I tried to email. You filtered me to spam. What exactly did you want me to do, Emma? You'd already convinced our parents I was the villain." Mom sank into a chair, her face in her hands. "Oh, God, Margot, we were so wrong." "You were more than wrong," I said, my voice harder than I'd ever used with them. "You believed I was capable of sabotaging my own sister without even asking for my side. You excluded me from the family based on fabricated evidence. You threw me away like I meant nothing." "We thought," Dad started. "You didn't think. You chose the easy narrative, the one that Emma presented, because it was simpler than believing your golden child might be lying." David stepped forward, shame written across his face. "She showed me texts, showed me what looked like proof. I should have questioned it, should have talked to you first." "Yes, you should have." I looked at each of them. "All of you should have." Emma stood up, wiping her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was scared. Marcus told me you'd try to break us up because you were jealous. He showed me how to fake those screenshots, said we needed to protect our relationship from your interference. I thought I was in love. I thought he was protecting me." The anger drained out of me, replaced by a weary sadness. "He manipulated you." "But Emma, you chose to believe him over me. You chose to destroy my relationship with our family rather than have an honest conversation." "I know." She was crying again. "I know, and I'm so sorry." We stood there in the wreckage of the party, my family looking at me like they were seeing me for the first time. Mom's decorations mocked us from the walls, silver bells and white ribbons, for a celebration that had turned into a disaster. "What do we do now?" Mom asked quietly. I thought about it. I could walk away, let them sit with their guilt and their mistakes. I could cut them off the way, they'd cut me off, give them a taste of their own medicine. Part of me wanted to. But standing there, looking at my broken sister and my remorseful parents, I realized something. Revenge felt nothing like I'd imagined. It wasn't triumphant or satisfying. It was just hollow. "Now," I said slowly, "you rebuild. Emma, you press charges against Marcus if there's more he's done to you. You check your bank accounts, change your passwords, and you talk to a therapist because you were in an abusive relationship." Emma nodded, tears streaming. "Mom, Dad, you learn to question narratives, even when they come from your kids. You learn that love means giving people the benefit of the doubt, especially the people who've never given you reason not to trust them." "And you?" Dad asked. "What about you, Margot?" I picked up my folder, now lighter without the documents I'd distributed. "I need time. I need you to understand that you didn't just exclude me from a party. You told me I wasn't worthy of being part of this family. That's not something I can forgive overnight." "We'll do whatever it takes," Mom said, standing up. "Therapy, family counseling, whatever you need." "I need space first," I said. "I need to not be the person who fixes everyone's problems for a while. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not trying to earn a place in this family." The words hurt them. I could see it in their faces. But I also saw understanding, acceptance of the consequences they'd earned. Emma walked over to me, hesitant. I understand if you never forgive me, but Margot, thank you. For coming tonight, for showing me the truth about Marcus. You saved me from making the worst mistake of my life. I looked at my sister, this person I'd grown up with, competed with, loved and resented in equal measure. I didn't do it for you, I said honestly. I did it for me, because I needed our parents to see the truth. But I'm glad you're safe now. She nodded, accepting this. I left the house as the sun finished setting, the last light bleeding from the sky. Behind me, I could hear my mother crying, my father's low voice trying to comfort her. The weight of what had happened would sit with them for a long time. In my car, I sat for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, processing everything. I'd exposed the truth. I'd protected my sister, whether she deserved it or not. I'd shown my family exactly what they'd thrown away. But I'd also learned something about myself. I didn't need their validation to know my worth. I didn't need to be included in their parties to know I belonged somewhere. I had built a life, a good life, on my own terms. I had colleagues who respected me, patients who trusted me, friends who valued me. My phone buzzed. A text from David. I'm so sorry doesn't even begin to cover it, but I am so sorry. Then Mom, please come to family therapy with us. We need to make this right. Then Emma, I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. I turned off my phone and drove home, the city lights blurring past my windows. The story wasn't over. Families don't heal in a single dramatic confrontation, no matter what the movies show. There would be months, maybe years, of difficult conversations, of rebuilt trust, of learning new patterns. But tonight, I'd done something important. I'd stood up for myself. I'd demanded to be seen, to be heard, to be believed. And whether my family ultimately earned their way back into my life or not, I knew something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't the invisible daughter anymore, the one who could be discarded without consequence. I was Margot Thompson, and I decided who deserved a place in my life. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood at my apartment window, looking out at the city where I'd built my own world. My phone continued buzzing with messages I'd read eventually. But for now, I just stood there, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Free. 3 months later, I attended my first family therapy session. Emma had broken her lease and moved back home, working through her trauma with a therapist. Marcus had been convicted of fraud and was serving time. The grant committee had allowed Emma to keep her award, recognizing she was a victim of manipulation. My parents were trying, really trying. They'd read books on family dynamics, on scapegoating, on how they'd unconsciously created roles for each of us that we'd been struggling against our entire lives. They'd written me letters, long, rambling apologies that tried to explain the unexplainable. I still kept my distance. I showed up to therapy, participated honestly, but I didn't attend family dinners yet. I didn't jump back into the role of the dependable daughter who fixed everyone's problems. Instead, I focused on my own life. I took a trip to Spain I'd been putting off. I started dating a teacher I'd met at a bookstore, someone who knew nothing about my family drama and liked me just for me. I got a promotion at the hospital, and slowly, carefully, I let my family begin to earn back my trust. Not because they deserved it automatically, but because I chose to give them the chance they'd never given me. The real revenge, I realized, wasn't exposing Marcus or proving my innocence. The real revenge was becoming so fully myself, so completely whole without them, that whether they were in my life or not became my choice, not theirs. At the 6-month mark, I agreed to attend a small family dinner. Just the 5 of us, no cameras, no social media. Emma cooked, badly, and we laughed about it. David told stories about his work without dominating the conversation. Mom and Dad asked about my life like they were genuinely interested in the answer. It wasn't perfect. We had awkward silences and painful moments. But it was honest, and it was real, and it was a beginning. As I drove home that night, I thought about that family reunion photo that had started. Everything, the image of my family gathered without me. It had hurt so badly then, felt like such a devastating rejection. Now I saw it differently. It had been the catalyst for becoming someone who didn't need to be in every photo to know she mattered. Someone who could walk away from love that came with conditions and build love that was freely given. The girl who'd been excluded from that party was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her worth, who demanded respect, who understood that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply refusing to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. And that woman, she was exactly who I wanted to be.